All right, let's busy night, a lot to react to. That was a banging card, UFC 250, but I don't even feel like I can start there because of what has gone down. I've already put up a segment on YouTube about this, about the UFC cheaping out with some of their bigger stars, Jon Jones, Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal did another interview tonight on Sportscenter, Candyman, which I thought was a little bit of a weird place to put it, but it ended up being pretty good timing because of what ended up happening after the card. And we will get into UFC 250, but like I would say probably a half hour after the card, then maybe a little bit sooner, we had a statement from Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor once again has retired from the sport. I have lost count of how many times he's done this. I feel like this is probably the third time he's officially put it out there, but he says, "Hey guys, I've decided to retire from fighting. Thanks for all the memories. What a ride it's been. Here's a picture of myself and my mother in Las Vegas, post one of my world title wins. Pick the home of your dreams, Mags. I love you. Whatever you desire, it's yours." So a little statement from Conor. He's out. George was on SportsCenter tonight with Kenny Mayne. Really went into the revenue splits and how he's upset that he makes 18% of whatever fight card he's out here promoting and wants to make something a little bit more equitable for him. And then, of course, we know the story with Jon Jones. He wanted the money for the super fight. Just got done watching Dana White's press conference. He was asked about all this stuff. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of times where Dana has a move and a tick where if you watch a lot of these press conferences, first of all, it's filled with sycophants. It's filled with a lot of people who are just like, "Oh my God, Dana, you're the best." Blah, blah, blah. And you get a lot of that. Like, "Oh, you're the first." First of all, I always wanted to do any of these media people do any type of research before going to cover a Dana White press conference. Ergo, do you know how many people have asked him already about being the first league back, the protocols, people who are mad at him? It's literally the same questions all the time. And it's a waste of time. And it makes these press conferences go, way into the night. And so a Dana White press conference that probably should really be about 10, 15 minutes of real new meat. It's got an extra 15 minutes of ass-kissing fluff and stuff that doesn't matter. The big story should have been bantamweight division, how great Amanda Nunes is, and your fighters' unrest. And instead, I got to deal with these dudes talking about the pandemic thing again. And it's like, he's literally talked about this 4 straight cards. What are we doing? But let's get to the matter at hand. So, Conor retiring, my first reaction to it was, and normally when Conor retires, it's trolling, it's got something behind it. He's not really retiring, right? Conor McGregor, a guy who is still in the prime of his career, still has a lot of money to make. He's not calling it a career. It has a message, it has a purpose. So what is it? And I think it kind of goes in line with what I was talking about previously. And that is that the fighters aren't happy right now. And the UFC is using a pandemic to try and cheap on their participants and cheap on their fighters. And look, the UFC and the UFC with pay, it's nothing new. This has been a problem for a long time where they have gotten everybody under the tent of the UFC. And so they dictate the terms. They get these guys in super long contracts. Got revealed today. Jorge Masvidal just signed an 8-fight contract. I think he said Jon Jones is a 6-fight contract. Has tons of, they sign these guys on long-term deals so as they can't go anywhere. But we're in a time right now where it's funny. He was talking today and he almost boxed himself in. Dana was talking about how well this pay-per-view was trending. So let's just say let's say it's true. Let's say it's not true. Who knows, right? But let's say it's true. Amanda Nunes, even in a week where I didn't see her on any ESPN programming, she is the GOAT, and maybe, she does have a loyal fan base following, and people were really into watching the Sugar Show. Sean O'Malley is a young star blossoming, another guy who was complaining about pay today, by the way. Let's say that's all true. That this was trending. You got to say that part of the reason is that you're the only show in town, which he did allude to, and he wants to put this on. Well, I don't know what our business model is going to be because I can't have any fans in the stands. And it's like, yes, but you're also saying on the same end that our numbers are bigger than ever. Our YouTube video numbers are bigger than ever. Our pay-per-views of Amanda Nunes are trending better than ever. And so when you hear these types of things and you're like, yeah, you're having this loss somewhere, but you're having gain elsewhere. The ESPN, you've said you've caught up. You are not owing of ESPN any events. So on your end of the bargain, nothing has been whitewashed. You are completely on level with your negotiations and contracts. And, he made this point tonight, and you could just tell he was drowning a little bit because people are getting hip to the fact of, okay, the UFC is trying to use this pandemic to hold off their big events. I imagine a Conor McGregor event, because Conor's one of those guys that you can get a legit fan number for of like $15 million. You don't want to lose that. So they're trying to kick the can on him as far as possible to get some damn fans in the building. Vegas has just kind of opened up. So if you can punt on Conor a little bit and not have to worry about paying him, you inevitably will be in this spot where, you don't take it on the chin as much because you got to pay Conor McGregor what you got to pay Conor McGregor. But the problem with that is, okay, Conor McGregor wants to continue fighting, and he told you, he let everybody know that this was a year he wanted to be very active, wanted to fight 4 times. And it's not Conor McGregor's problem that you want to do things on the cheap, which is very, very clear. With Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal is one of your big stars right now. Maybe it took a long time for him to get there, and maybe you just gave him a new contract or whatnot. But, if you are offering him less to fight for the belt than he did to fight Nate Diaz, that seems wholly silly. And second of all of these guys are trying to look at you, and they're looking at you sideways because you're up there talking about what the Denver Broncos are doing and what college football is like. Why do you think college football doesn't want to come back? College football can't have attendance. It's like, yeah. Also, though, college football pays their athletes and participants and everybody who goes to see them a whole total of $0 to raise those guys. I guess if you want to get fancy about it, you could talk about their scholarships and what it costs to feed them. But holy hell, man! Like, what do you? That's the argument you go with? Is college football? Why do you think they're not coming back? Because they don't want to lose out on the revenue. You can't tell college players to take less. What do they got to pay tuition? What's less than 0? The NFL, look, there's been rumblings that maybe they'll have to cut some fans, but for the most part, the NFL's monster is NFL ticket on Sunday. Most people are going to be sitting on their asses at home watching the NFL and their gazillion-dollar television deals. So they're going to be all right. And everybody here is hip to the fact that most of the revenue for these franchises and these leagues and all this stuff comes from TV. And you're here sitting here and talking about how, Amanda Nunes, who has a piece of the pay-per-view, she's going to make a ton of money, and all these kids are going to be young stars because you got 7 million views on YouTube and whatnot. Yeah, man. You want to know why? Because we're all sitting around doing nothing. And by the by, guess what? Here's a crazy thought. If you have Jorge Masvidal fight Kamaru Usman, or you have Jon Jones fight Francis Ngannou, they could be monster fights. Although it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, I'd kind of much rather do that fight with fans so I can put more money in my pocket. But as Jorge Masvidal told you tonight, that means nothing to him because he gets no part of the gate. So it's one of these things where, he wants a pat on the back for being first. And Lord knows, God, you've gotten enough of them. But I guess 6 press conferences of reporters kissing your ass is not enough. And by the way, I just love this, the ominous factor of, I don't even know what's going to happen. And quite frankly, the first people who are going to get laid off are the media. It's like, look, hombre, media's been used to getting laid off for a long, don't know where you've been, Dana White, but media jobs are getting cut left and right, have been for years. So I don't know where that one comes out of. I would worry more about like people who actually have, jobs that actually matter. And this comes from a media member himself, but when we start losing people who actually develop and bring something to society, perhaps that's something we should worry about more than another blogger for MMA Junkie. But let's just say that's the truth. What does that have to do with your fighters getting paid? Who is sitting there asking you the same question, 6 straight press conference? What the hell does that have to do with what Masvidal is getting paid, or why you're keeping Conor on the shelf because you can't foot the bill on him, or why you won't pay Jon Jones what he's worth for a super fight against the scariest mother bleeper in the entire sport? All of this stuff is just circle jerking. You're just talking in long sentences and long forms. You make loud noises and you hope, all right, everybody's going to back down, other than Kevin Iole. And then when Kevin Iole was asking you just sound questions of like, I mean, don't you think it's kind of weird that you have all of these fighters in 1 week telling you, hey, kind of upset with my pay? And Sean O'Malley, who, by the way, is creeping into that, one of the most recognizable guys, and we'll get into his performance for tonight, right up there. Just want what's fair. Just want what, he's not saying that he deserves Jon Jones money or Masvidal money or Conor McGregor money, but he wants what's fair. He doesn't want your bum-ass Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series contract. So, yeah, man, it's got to be one of those things where I really saw a guy who was flustered tonight. I saw a president of the UFC who I thought didn't make a whole lot of sense, didn't have a lot of good answers, and it is unfortunate that turned out to be, I think, the prevailing story of the night, because holy hell, I mean, I told you on my previous segment that I did this, I started off by saying in the video, this was a bad week for the UFC, and I still believe that it's not great that you have the biggest names in the UFC all threatening to walk away or walking away, whether you believe it or not. Because holy hell, the sport is fun. And man, what an awesome card it was tonight. It really, really was. But it's impossible not to look at, the biggest name in the sport, and Conor McGregor. And if they were going to do anything, and I don't know if this is going to mean anything for a union or whatever, but if they were going to do anything that was a switch, you need him. You need Conor. You need Jon. You need Jorge Masvidal. I don't know if if Nate Diaz would sync up with this. DC doesn't seem like the type of guy. He's too company bound. I don't see him stepping into the forefront of doing it. But you got the horses. Like, those are the guys you want if you want to really make a change. I think you got the 3 guys you would want. I mean, the only other guy I think really could add anything to it is Khabib, but we haven't heard anything from him or really any of Ali and his clients. I guess Kamaru's been upset with some pay, so you could add him to the list. But I don't put him as great a fighter as Kamaru is, and I do think the world of his skill set. He's not that, I think, yet as a fighter in his star power. So look. This is going to be an interesting thing to follow. It really is. Now, look, Dana White may not give a rat's ass. Dana White may think to himself, I would rather just wait it out. Let him be angry. Let him be angry, and it'll turn into a storyline later on. Because, eventually they do all come back. Conor definitely has FU money. He doesn't have to come back. But if Masvidal does have a new deal that is more beneficial to him, I imagine that he is going to end up fighting sooner rather than later. Jon, I don't know. Jon's probably more well off because he's been making millions for a while. But even still, the fact that you're gonna have a sport that you saw. Look, this is not a sport I ever want to say is dead in the water, because we saw tonight a lot of young talent, a lot of fun talent on display. But it'd be nice if those guys got to fight on some star cards, man. And if you're telling me that Amanda Nunes was pulling good numbers, and she is the lady goat, she is the best there is, best there ever was, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Imagine if you had the ability to put these guys on even bigger cards than with her. even though you're claiming that her card tonight did fantastic. Let's get into a little bit of it with UFC 250 because that's about all the recap. I guess we just sit and wait and see what happens. But it felt like tonight, it did feel like tonight, something shook up. Something shook. When Conor throws his hat in the ring, you hear Jorge say what his piece. Kind of the first time he's ever spoken in this term, standing up for himself. Always been a company guy. Jon, has done this sometimes, but this is definitely the most vocal. Definitely threatening to put his title away. Like, it's just, look, man, if you are in a spot where your bantamweight champion / flyweight champion leaves, your light heavyweight champion threatens to leave, your bad mother bleeper champion is threatening to leave, and your biggest star retires out of nowhere, something's amiss, and something's not right, and something needs to get fixed. And I told you right now, I tell you, that UFC, that C stands for cheap. They're cheaping it out right now, man. And Dana wants to put this ominous cloud. Here's the thing, though. Dana wants to put this ominous cloud of, the world, it's about to get a lot worse. You see the layoffs, and you see the stock market, and first goes the bankruptcies, and then goes the real estate, and And it's like, you're just, okay, maybe all of that is so, and you're a gazillionaire, so you probably know economics a lot more than the average Joe, But what does it got to do with anything with your guys who don't get a cut of that pie you're talking about? That gate pie that isn't a thing with you. What does it have to do with anything? You're still getting your ESPN checks. You're caught up, baby. You got that guaranteed deal with the mouse. You're keeping up your end of the bargain, and according to you, numbers are bigger than ever, booming than ever. So why would the fighters feel sheepish about asking for more money? That's where their cut comes from. So I just look at it and I laugh, man. I was like, what? This is a guy who is drowning a little bit up here. And I don't, Dana White normally feels like he's in control of the room or he can shut people down. He didn't have good stuff tonight. He really didn't. It felt like he was late on a lot of fastballs with this stuff because it was coming at him out of nowhere. I understand the Conor stuff kind of was just sprung upon him. So was the Masvidal stuff. He just got done with the card. But it was very noticeable. I always thought, that he wants to sit here and he wants people to feel bad for the UFC in the spot that's in. It's like, you guys are all right. You still got this television deal. You guys are putting on fights. And by the way, you're doing it on your own property. You don't have to rent any venues. You don't got to, travel anywhere anymore. You're in this little UFC apex. So don't act like that's not cutting some budget out of it also. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now with that, man. I do want to get into what happened. UFC 250. We had a really fun card. I tell you what, man, I am a big fan of doing all of these doing a bunch of good fighters in division. I really liked the setup tonight of the bantamweight showcase. It was a lot of fun. I mean, you had yourselves some great fights. Sean O'Malley, who looks like he's kind of the biggest star blossoming in the UFC. You keep wondering, like, all right, is he going to be too good to be true? And instead, he takes Eddie Wineland and he just puts a vicious knockout on him, stuns him, deads him, does it walk-off style. He's got the Tekashi 6ix9ine rainbow braids. He was wearing the rainbow fro throughout the entire week. He's just got the look. He's got the charisma. He's telling Joe Rogan that his knockout's worth 100,000. He's saying he's the best striker in the game. He's not forcing it like Conor McGregor. He's his own personality, but he's just got an X factor to him. I think as DC said, he's got it, and that showed, man. He was a lot of fun to watch. Neil Magny and Rocco Martin. Good fight. A lot of energy expended by both of these guys. I thought the decision was right on the realm of 29-28. It ended up going 30-27 on two cards, but I thought Neil did a great job in that fight. And so, that was probably the most ho-hum of the card, because the rest of them were just absolute barn burners. You had Aljamain Sterling just absolutely annihilating Corey Sandhagen, getting himself a rear naked choke, put Corey Sandhagen out. The Sandman was put to sleep. Aljamain Sterling, he looked incredible. And I feel bad because here's another thing. They ended up, this vacant bantamweight championship that just kind of came out of nowhere because Henry Cejudo isn't getting paid what he should get paid. They end up going with Peter Yan against Jose Aldo, and you're like, what? And Dana's like, yeah, well, I just wanna. And you watch tonight, and you're just like, wow, really? We're gonna go to the Jose Aldo? Well, I like that's where we're gonna go. We could just have this fresh, that we have this fresh crop right here of bantamweight stars, and we're gonna go to the past and give Jose Aldo. And look, this is cool. Like, go to that well, man, of the late 2000s, and you go and you do your Fight Islands with, Shogun versus Nogueira, and you do your, Gustafsson versus Verdum, and you do your Jose Aldo title fights, even though you have all these lions and these killers at 135. Whatever comes of it, Aljamain Sterling for sure should be next in line for the title shot. Whoever comes out on top of that fight, and I think it will be Jan, but we'll see. Aljamain Sterling definitely deserves the next title shot. But man, I tell you what, like a rocket, Cody Garbrandt and his knockout of Rafael Sunsao, unbelievable. Corner pocket at the buzzer of round 2. Annihilate him. You didn't think there was a shot Sean O'Malley's knockout was going to be touched tonight. Cody Garbrandt, very arguable that he had the better one. It was definitely the more vicious. I would almost say, like, Sean's, the way he delivered it was so technically sound. His little feint on the uppercut, dropping him with the right hand. But Cody's was just so vicious. It was like something out of Mortal Kombat. Like, if only one of them was able to get the bonus for that night, and I think they both got them. Yeah, no fight of the night bonuses. Alex Perez, Sean O'Malley, Cody Garbrandt, Aljo all got performance of the night bonuses. I would give the nod to Cody, but they were both fantastic. I honestly think that's the fight they should do next, because Cody was 9 of this fight, and I think Sunsao was 5. And, Sean, I don't believe is ranked yet. Let me double check on that, because I don't want to sound completely ignorant, but I think he definitely will be after his knockout. So I think what they should do is have those two up against each other. The only thing I could see again is maybe you don't want to put two absolute killers in there and knock somebody out, but I'm looking at it right now. Cody Stamen's probably going to go up because he got a win tonight against Kelleher, even though it was at 145. That was just because of timing. I definitely think you're going to see O'Malley jump in there, and I think that, if Cody goes to, if he ends up going, let's say a Sunsao drops, they're going to put Jose into the top 5. I mean, it's going to be weird because Peter Yan, I think he's probably going to go up, but Aljo should probably be number 1 after tonight, which is kind of strange because there's no champ. But I really think that would be a fun fight if they put Cody Garbrandt and Sean O'Malley. Man, that'd be a hell of a matchup. I can see reasons against it, because you don't want to. I think you have two. Remember, Cody's still young. He's only 28. And Sean O'Malley's 25. So maybe you want to give Sean O'Malley somebody a little bit, maybe a little bit less dangerous, and maybe you want to give Cody a little bit more time to rehab, and maybe you could set those two up more on a collision course. But, Jose and Peter, they're out. They're not going to fight each other. Corey just lost. I guess you could argue maybe doing, Corey and Sean as a possible fight. So I don't know. I just think that that would be a fun matchup. The two guys who had like the knockouts of the night, pit them up against each other. Even if it is Cody, probably ideally doesn't want to take on a young killer like that who's not ranked yet. It is going to be a highly anticipated fight. I mean, it definitely could be a main event for a fight night. I think that's what they should probably do. like have those guys headline on ESPN, I think it'd be an absolute monster. I think it'd be amazing if they did those two against each other. What else do we got from tonight? We have Alex Caceres, shout out to Miami. Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, who comes from the streets of Miami, the back streets of Miami, although he is a vegan, almost like a vegan monk. He put it on Chase Hooper today. Chase Hooper is a friend of the program. We do like Chase. Definitely has some growing to do. I did agree with DC and Rogan's point where that this was maybe too big a leap up. And maybe that's the argument to not do O'Malley versus Cody Garbrandt. Maybe that's too big a leap up for Sean. But, Chase is young. Like, he's 20. And they gave him Alex Caceres, who has 20-plus fights in the UFC. That's crazy. But I still thought that Chase showed a lot of heart. He didn't even though it got off to a really bad start, he got put on his ass early. He weathered it. He just didn't. He went up against a guy who had too many tricks in his bag to just get overwhelmed by his skill. And I hope they give him a little bit easier of a fight next time because he's got a lot of potential. He is hilarious on social media. Like Ben Askren, I think said something like, "I was disappointed in you, son," and he said something like, "At least I got mom's chin," because the joke is, Ben Askren and. Ben Askren is his father. They do look alike. It's undeniable. But that was a big leap up for him. And by the way, speaking of the commentary, I gotta say this as Daniel Cormier right now, one of the best things going in sports commentary. He is so damn good, and in a lot of ways, I know this may be blasphemous to say. I really feel like he's past Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has been known as the voice of the UFC for the longest time. It's not a big fight unless Joe Rogan's calling it. Biggest podcast in the world, gazillion-dollar deal with Spotify. I get all that. I like Joe Rogan's show, especially, mostly, depending on the guests and all that whatnot. I like hearing when he has the fighters on. Joe does give a really big platform to these UFC guys, and I think that's important. But I think that DC to me is like a guy who's in his prime, and Joe's just a little bit too, Joe's bag of tricks just a little bit too much. Joe almost decides on a fight like immediately on how it's going to go, and then by 3 minutes later he's convincing himself of something else. And DC right now, he's almost like in that Tony Romo level of he sees things that are coming before they happen. His passion's amazing. He's just the best thing going right now. I really, really believe that. Daniel Cormier is incredible, and he did a great job tonight. The performance of Amanda Nunes tonight against Felicia Spencer. Goat's doing goat stuff, man. That's the lioness. She's the best for a reason. I think that her last fight against Durandamy, maybe a little bit lackluster. They talked a lot about her bad weight cut in that last fight. None of that tonight. Tonight was an absolute demolition of Felicia Spencer. They made a big deal about somebody betting $1 million on Amanda to win, I think $160,000 or something like that. But I thought that it should have been stopped after the fourth round. I thought it could have been argued to be stopped after the third round. The judges who have it 50-45, how that judge doesn't have any 10-8s is beyond me. The judges who have 50-44, the fact that you only have one 10-8 is beyond me. We watched destruction. She destroyed Felicia Spencer, and I think not to MMA math it, but I think that this is to put another feather in the cap of Amanda. I think that this is just a showing that she's a cut above Chris Cyborg. That wasn't no fluke, and Felicia fared a lot better against Cyborg. Once the most intimidating force in women's fighting. Amanda, not only did she take that title, but she's taken that crown. She's just that damn good, and didn't look like she was smiling as the fight's going on, just doing it stress-free. Was ragdolling her to the ground, so taking her down like it was nothing. It nearly choked her out at the end of the fourth round. So she just beat her in every single fashion. Felicia Spencer had nothing for her other than a really big chin. And I think that Amanda is, cementing her legacy. I don't really know where she goes from here. Some people are saying, well, let's do Valentina again. I don't think that's fair. That to me, that's one of those things where like, that's not even fair to Amanda. She's taken on Valentina twice. They've been close fights. And at that point, it's almost like you might end up catching her one time. Like Valentina may end up catching her one time, and people may think that flips the legacy, and it doesn't. Valentina is great, but she's never going to have the legacy of knocking out Ronda Rousey, knocking out Chris Cyborg, beating Miesha Tate, beating Holly Holm, like really beating the pioneers of the sport and becoming the undisputed best ever. And then of course beating the champion that Valentina is twice. I don't think it's fair to ask her to fight Shevchenko again. The only thing that I would ever be interested in with that is if it was possible for Amanda to get down to 125 pounds, but after knowing how much of a struggle it was for her to get to 135, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Amanda versus the scales. I don't want to see a TJ Dillashaw situation where, she's got to use something to get down low and just isn't herself in that kind of a fight. I just don't want to see it. What is next for her? I think she's just done everything. Like they were talking, it was kind of cool seeing Clarissa Shields get a bit of a shout out tonight. Her doing some kind of a crossover freak fight like that is fun. Clarissa's been talking about this Layla Ali stuff for a long time, but I think her fighting the lady, the GWOAT as Clarissa dubs herself, and Amanda, of course, the champ goat of mixed martial arts. I think that's fun. I wouldn't mind. Would we be down for like a hybrid? We've talked about these hybrid fights before. Tyson Fury's talked about this before. Or even a boxing match. Even I think if you were going to do Zuffa boxing, right? If you were going to do if that was ever going to be a thing for Dana White, he's talking about this to high hell, this Zuffa boxing. If you ever were going to do it, you should do it with this kind of a crossover. You took women's MMA to a level boxing's never been to, women's boxing has never been to. Now do that with this. If Clarissa gets the win, maybe you can kind of be the hub for her and see if you can make her a bigger star than Showtime ever could, because she, I think, is a little bit frustrated with where her pay is at and where where she's at as far as the sport is concerned. And she's kind of running out of stuff too. When you're calling out somebody who hasn't fought in 13 years, you're looking for stuff. You're scrounging for stuff. She's broken the Lomachenko record of three titles faster than anybody had done it. So I would like to see that. I think that'd be fun. I think there comes a point like Conor. I think there comes a point where Conor did everything there was to do. He beat everybody there was to beat at featherweight. He then won the lightweight title. He did something nobody had done. Win 2 titles simultaneously. Well, now Amanda's done something that nobody's done, which is she has defended 2 weight class belts. Never been done before. When you do that, I think you're allowed some kind of crossover, something a little bit more fun, something out of the box. Let a contender emerge. There's not, because right now in the women's, it's not even like where it was at lightweight with Conor, where there were other guys who were deserving of title shots and stuff like that. Right now, this is a women's division that needs to regroup and find somebody finds to be a legitimate threat. And so while that's going on, let Amanda go do something that makes her a heap of money. Maybe he's a little out of the box. Get her an outsider to come in, or let her go out if she wants to. I know she's having a kid with her wife, so maybe she just wants to be a mom. I don't know. But I think as far as combat sports is concerned, she should be allowed to do something fun. But an awesome performance by her, man. As flawless as it gets. And shout out also to Herbert Burns. Got himself a win to kick off the card tonight. Won by rear naked choke in the first round. So the Burns brothers, they've had themselves a good couple of weeks. And yeah, that was your UFC 250 card, man. Action-packed night, a good night of UFC. It was good to get the taste out of your mouth after all the bad stuff this week that was bugging me. But then it was all kind of brought back to full circle after Conor had his retirement tweet. So Is what it is. Either way, it was a fun night. It was a fun night, a great night of fights, and very much enjoyed it.